never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi guys, welcome back to my Steps to Sobriety, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today is another fantastic day for an interview. I know, I keep saying that. I promise one day I will have another intro line, but it is such a beautiful day. It is a day where I got up early and I really didn't want to get up, and it was that kind of eternal struggle. But then I thought, nah, I've got another fantastic guest on my show, and I'm actually really looking forward to that. And indeed, today I've got Cheryl Ilov with me. Cheryl is a woman who is the true femininja, and a woman who became from a normal woman turning into the reluctant warrior. And I love that. I love that. She has written 2 books about her journey, and she is living a life in which movement and martial arts play such a significant role that she is really embodying the power of movement and using it in such a powerful way to undo the changes that maybe trauma and maybe stress can leave on us. And so therefore I'm so excited to actually hear her story and learn from her how can we incorporate movement as a more natural part of our life. Cheryl, I'm so excited to have you on my show. Welcome.
Thank you, Stephan. It is an honor to be here, truly.
Mm-hmm. And we had before the operation, yes. No, I haven't yet operated on her. No, goodness gracious. Before the interview, we had this discussion about your name, Cheryl Ilov versus Cheryl Ilov. So I obviously want automatically to use the Slavic pronunciation. So if you hear it both ways, Cheryl Ilov is really Cheryl's trademark out there. So I might use both. So please, guys, forgive me for that. It's just both things sound so nicely, but I obviously, as a German, I'm proud of this kind of European / Slavic heritage, and I like to pronounce the names as they were given.
I have to tell you, Stephan, I'm rather proud of it myself.
Ah, beautiful. You are a woman of many talents, and certainly a woman that you don't mess around with. And if there's any doubt, you just need to look behind yourself in this beautiful, beautiful weapons rack. Obviously, sharp-edged weapons are close to your heart. I haven't met many women that join my fascination with knives and swords, etc. You need to tell me, how did that all come about? What was your journey into martial arts?
Well, it was a slow burn, so to speak. I started my martial arts journey at the tender young age of 47, but I did not go willingly. And I want the audience to really understand that martial arts was something that was never on my radar. It was never anything I ever wanted to do. And it was certainly something that wasn't in my DNA. I'm a fussy girl, and I'll be the first to admit it. I like the finer, more delicate things in life. I like tutus and toe shoes, Pilates and pedicures. I'm a girl. Those are the things that I really like. And so martial arts just really never fit into my plan. But the fascinating thing is my father, who was originally from the former Czechoslovakia, was a martial artist. He had a black belt in karate, the traditional, I think it was kendo, karate. And I have 4 sisters. So I think that's probably why he started training, number 1, to get out of the house, and number 2, to, help protect his girls, which he really shouldn't have had to worry about that because he was a big man and pretty scary, even without the martial arts background. So much to the point that we really didn't date much growing up. Everybody knew my father. It was a small town. But anyway, it just was one of those things that the universe puts in front of you. And it all started with me meeting a man. Doesn't everything? Actually, he was an acupuncturist, and he was somebody I had never met before, but one of my own clients, one of my physical therapy clients, had recommended this guy to me. She says, you would love him. He does something called shiatsu, which is a form of Japanese massage. And I thought, well, okay, she was somebody I would trust because I knew she was very selective in picking her caregivers. So I go to this guy for the very first time, and he seemed harmless enough and nice enough. And the minute he started putting needles in my legs, he got a very far away look on his face. And he said, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with these things.
Now, how to turn a girl on? I mean, talk about pickup lines. That's a new one.
That's really funny because every man that I tell this story to will automatically go pickup line. And so I think they kind of write it down, saying maybe I'll use that one someday. But I mean, I was shocked. All I could think of, Stephan, was who in their right mind thinks like this, let alone says it out loud. And I thought, I need to grab my purse and run. But of course, I was literally pinned to the table. And unless I wanted to run out the door with needles sticking out all over me, the man had a captive audience. So I just looked at him as he kept going on and on about wanting to teach me how to kill with my legs. I said, I'm really not interested. Thank you for thinking of me, but this is never going to happen. Never, ever going to happen. Well, then every time I would go to his office for sessions, now his dojo, his martial arts school, was right next to his clinic. So it was kind of like a duplex. So I would see, the guys coming in and out and stuff as I was waiting for my acupuncture session. And then he would come in just full of energy about his martial art, and he would just talk about it endlessly, incessantly. And I just wanted the man to shut up, leave the room, let the needles do their work, and just let me relax for a little while. Well, he never stopped talking about the art of the ninja. It's called Ninpo Taijutsu. And, I even thought about looking for a new acupuncturist because he was so annoying. But he was so good at what he did. And there was something about him I really liked. And it was obvious that he liked me. And so I kept going back to him. But what he did not know is that I had a deep, dark secret. That just 4 months prior to meeting him, I had had a traumatic experience. And like a lot of people who've had traumatic experiences, when I tried to report it and I tried to get help, instead of getting help and empathy and, okay, action steps, this is what we're going to do. We're going to report it. We're going to do this. Then we'll get you some help. I just got shut down, even by the people who were closest to me. Started with my very best friend. Oh, Cheryl, that cannot happen. You're making it up. You're exaggerating. And I got this from every single person that I tried to talk to. So then what do? You stuff it, right? You stop talking about it. You paste a big fake smile on your face and you pretend that everything is just fine. And that works short term until eventually it all just comes like blah, pouring out of you. And that's basically what happened to me about a year, almost a year and a half after it happened. And, as I said, nobody would listen to me. Everybody was just telling me I was making it up. I was attention seeking. I was looking for money, whatever, a settlement. And it's like, I just want to get help for myself and to help protect other women who may have found themselves in that situation. Well, the one person that I thought I really could talk to was my acupuncturist. His name is Mark. Everybody loves Mark when they hear his story. It's like, hey, I'm the star of the show here. But I went to him. I intuitively knew that he wouldn't shut me down. I intuitively knew that he would listen to me. And he did. And then he started treating me with, more acupuncture and Chinese herbs and stuff to help with the symptoms of PTSD and help calm my nervous system down. But then his campaign to get me on the mat went into high gear. And this man was like a dog with a bone. He wouldn't stop. And I was like a dog with a bone going, I'm not going to do it. I don't understand how hanging around a smelly dojo with a bunch of sweaty men is going to make me feel better. And he says, you don't understand the incredible healing power in martial arts. And I'm going, well, not do I not understand it. I just didn't believe it. You have to give him credit. And I still do. I mean, we're, of course, still friends and stuff, great friends to this day. He never gave up. He just hounded me until I finally broke down and said, okay, I will take a few classes just to prove to you how much I am going to hate it. I hate it when I'm wrong. Oh my gosh. I think one of my greatest characteristics is my incomparable stubbornness. And thank goodness he was at least as stubborn as I am, maybe even more so, because he never gave up. Well, I didn't hate it. I fell in love with the art. I fell in love with the training. And I really fell in love with a sense of empowerment that I got from training. And 10 years later, I became my teacher's first female black belt.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it just...
In 20 years' time, he never had a woman achieve such a high rank.
It's interesting because the martial arts that you chose are not renowned for their gentleness. This is not a dance like Aikido or a more slow movement such as Tai Chi. Nothing to say against Steven Seagal and his skills in Aikido. Aikido you can use for self-defense, but you need to be way, 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 way down the line. Ninjutsu or variations of the ninjutsu. Well, the ninjas were deadly assassins. So there is no mollycoddling there. You know, you're either dead or not dead. That was the outcome of an assassination. And most of the time, they were actually quite good in what they did. So here you were, this girl, and girl at heart. When I say girl, girls go for me till 80, okay? 85.
Yes.
Something like that.
I love that.
Exactly. Because maybe then girls do grow up, but until looking at my wife, there's still lots of work to be done. She's a girl. No, okay, stop that chauvinistic swine talk. No, here you are, a woman who likes more the feminine side. What attracted you to ninjutsu or to
nothing? I mean, nothing. It was, I literally had to be forced onto the mat by Mark.
Let's rephrase.
Okay.
What was so attractive once you were in that smelly, boy germ infested macho place?
Yeah. Well, I do have to, confession is good for the soul, or so they say. So I do have to confess that I do really like men a lot. However, I did not want to be the only woman surrounded by men in this smelly, sweaty dojo with testosterone pouring down the walls and pooling on the floor. And that's basically what happened. And even Mark had told me, I was concerned. I said, okay, I'll try a few classes, but I really don't want to be the only woman in class. Oh, no, I have plenty of female students. And even some of them are higher ranking. They will take you under their wing. They will teach you the art of the ninja. You have nothing to worry about. So apparently either he kind of exaggerated a bit or wasn't 100% honest. But then, you know, I had my own responsibility. In all of those 3 years that I'd been seeing him for acupuncture, I never once saw a woman going in and out of the dojo. And I saw all the guys. But my very first class, not only was I the only woman in class, I was the only woman like in a 3-mile radius. And so there I was, this traumatized, terrified, broken, beaten down, middle-aged ballerina standing in a room surrounded by what I considered at the time like these, you know, cavemen, you know, these Neanderthals whose goal was basically to try and slap me around, beat me up, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I had no idea what to expect, none whatsoever. But anyway, it worked out all right. They were very polite. They were very gracious, the men. And I was terrified for that first class. Not only was I terrified for that first class, when I continued to train 1 month later, 3 months later, 6 months later, 2 years later, even, I would still be terrified at the thought of going to the dojo because I knew something could always go wrong. But I always went. And every time I walked out, even after that very first class, I giggled the entire way home when I was driving. And trust me, I had not giggled in a very long time.
Ah, how beautiful is that, isn't it? Because that was a triple win. First of all, you showed up. And with that, you demonstrated your perseverance and your willingness to jump over your own shadow. Now that takes a lot. Secondly, you were fighting the demons of the negative talk in there. That's a heap of rubbish. No. Let's rather have a pedicure, a manicure, or whatever cure that will make you feel much better. So you beat that voice, and then you learned a new skill, which therefore actually enriched you. Leave alone the sheer fact that there is in many of the martial arts is quite a spiritual component and a component that allows you to tap into the parasympathetic nervous system, which then in turn starts healing. And that is the beautiful thing. So you did that all, and that is a huge achievement. Wow.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. And now here I am. I've got to give credit to the, as I call them, the many magnificent men in my life, because there are a lot. As I said, I do like men. I am married, so guys out there, don't get excited. But once I got used to them, because I didn't even know how to communicate with men at that point, because I had been married for 17 years. I hadn't had any close male friends since college. The only close male friends I had a few in ballet class, but it's a completely different kind of energy in ballet class than there is in martial arts. And there aren't nearly as many men in the ballet class as there was in the dojo. So I didn't even know how to communicate with them. And they're looking at me like I had just landed from Mars because they never had a woman. We didn't have a whole lot of women in the dojo, obviously. There were a few, but I never saw them. They always took the evening class. But they never had a woman show up who would have to excuse herself and step off the mat to go fix her lipstick or, comb her hair. And it was like, I'm trying to beat you up here and you can't leave. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I need a lipstick fix. And so they're looking at me like I was insane. And then when they would try and attack me, now you probably know this from your understanding and your experience in martial arts, but as a new student, the first thing we learned was how to get out of the way of an attack, how to evade, escape. And I was so good at it, Stephan. The minute one of the guys just made a move toward me, I would throw my gi top over my head and run screaming off the mat going, "Don't touch me." So, I was kind of like the comic relief. And they would get so annoyed and they would look at Mark, my sensei, and they'd say, "Hey, she's cheating. She won't let me attack her." And he would just shrug his shoulders and say, "She got out of the way, and that's the whole point."
Love it. Love it. Love it. Because a good martial art, and it's a funny word. I actually hate the word martial arts. Yes, for us who are practicing them, for us these are arts. These are so much more than pure harsh self-defense. But it is ultimately, where did I want to go? I've got so many thoughts, so many questions I want to throw at you. Damn.
Well, I think you were getting toward the martial arts and how everybody might think that it's like fighting and conflict. Is that where you're heading?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It's spooky that you can read my mind. You need counseling.
I'm a ninja. What do you expect?
Gotcha. You're so right.
And I like men.
Fair call. Maybe I was an easy target here. I think the reality, what I was pointing out to, is the best martial artists avoid a fight. And
Mhm.
that is exactly what I became very good in: de-escalation and
Mhm.
dealing with an opponent to prevent
Mhm.
actually a fight going ahead, or
Mhm.
predicting, having the situational awareness to not putting myself
Mhm.
into a situation where a fight might occur. So these are
Mhm.
the key skills. So were you well already trained in that? So there you were, voting with your feet. Okay, number one, that's not bad actually. But
Mhm.
equally, you had a ballet training, which means typically
Mm.
you do the human pretzel. Come on, take my ear, yeah, scratch my ear with my little toe. Okay, that
Exactly.
kind of shit. And
Mhm.
that makes you a small lady, which are more
Mhm.
difficult to actually deal with. For anyone who's fighting out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Little ankle
Mhm.
biters. And honestly, by the time I swing a roundhouse kick, where'd she go? No,
Yep.
no. So no. You actually had some advantages, huge
Mhm.
advantages actually in a fight,
Mhm.
because everyone will
Mhm.
belittle you and everyone will say, she's a
Mhm.
little girl there. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get back to these magnificent men in my
Oh,
life.
yeah, okay.
Once once we, because I was looking at them like they came from Mars and they're looking at me like I'm from Venus, which of course that's, kind of how the male female relationships are. We got to be really good friends. It took about 6 months, but some of the guys, we just got to be very, very close friends. And as probably after about the 6 month mark, when I did get my second belt, and they realized, okay, so she's somewhat serious about this and she might be hanging around for a while. They start to pull me aside and give me little tips and little tricks. And they actually started to tap into my feminine spirit and teach me how to use my femininity and my feminine wiles and my natural sneakiness, which I've had all my life, to use that with an opponent. And I was like, I think you're onto something here. So anytime, and by this time I was starting to get closer and closer to them, I wouldn't run off the mat screaming, but I would just start with looking at them when they would come and approach me, and I'd give them the great big eyes. And it was like, okay, don't hurt me. Remember, I'm small, I'm frail, I'm a helpless little middle-aged lady, so please, I know. And I milked it, Stephan. Besides, if you hurt me, Sensei will kill you. And we did all of that, and they were just like, okay, okay. Now, by this time, I had some skills, so it'd be like they would start the attack, and it'd be boom, boom. Sorry about
Exactly.
that. And I loved them to death. They were such slow learners, and it worked every single time. It worked for probably like 2 years. Mhm.
And then, of course, people realize that they've been had, and that's okay. But this
Mhm.
is this is life. This is life,
Yeah.
because this is not life is not about going into a ring and there are little girls who are,
Right.
or boys, it depends on the ring,
Yes.
who have got little, okay, round one,
Right.
3 minutes. No,
Yeah.
any fight that lasts longer than 5 seconds is actually a waste of energy. So
Yeah.
therefore, and this would be very much a type of self-defense or of
Mhm.
martial arts that you practiced. So I
Mhm.
absolutely love that. And
Mhm.
again, you were taught to redevelop or develop those innate skills. They were already sitting
Mhm.
in there, but they were dormant.
Mhm.
And now you suddenly were
Mhm.
able to tap into powers that were lying within you that you had no idea. And that must
And you
have
know
been,
what, Stefan? And this might not surprise you. I'm sure it won't. But there were times, especially as I was getting higher in the rankings, that my own power frightened me.
huh,
And even to this day, it's like I feel like, when it's really rising to the top, it's like I wonder what I would be capable of if I really just let it rip. And that's something I really don't want to know. But I know it's there. And even as you said, like at the very beginning, the ninjas are known for being assassins. And we really kind of like that, because then people are less likely to mess with us. But actually, we have the heart of the warrior within us, as ninja. And we work on, as you already said, the spiritual aspect of it is growing our spirit. And our spirit is, our gaman, our composure, our skills, our philosophy, our commitment to our art, and our commitment to everything else in life. And the warrior spirit it's a very compassionate heart. It is a heart that craves peace and harmony. All we want to do is to be able to take care of ourselves, our families, our community, our environment, and to help take care of other people who might not be able to take care of themselves, to be able to step in and protect them. The last thing in the world that we want is a fight. We don't want conflict. We don't want aggression. And being the peace lovers that we are, we'll just step back and say, no, I don't want to do this. No, please don't cross that boundary, blah, blah. No, I really please. And then once they cross it, it's like, okay, I said not to do this, please. And then it's game on.
So true. So true. And it's actually quite bizarre, because the more you learn how to do damage and how to even kill, let's call it what it is, the more you appreciate life, and the more you appreciate the power that you have got. And it is a beautiful thing. There's a nice saying, I'm better a warrior in the garden than a gardener in a war. And I strongly, strongly believe that. The reality is violence will find you. Doesn't matter if you like it, if not, if you're ready or not. Violence will one day invade your life. We know from the statistics of rape and sexual abuse, 1 in 3 women will have been raped or attacked or sexually abused. 1 in 7 men. Okay, and that's just the sexual abuse side of things. We are not talking about the maybe domestic violence, the other violence that we see in our lives. So I think it is very wise to actually consider the risk of being attacked one day, and maybe, just maybe, even finding solutions to that before it happens. And for me, I was attacked by a gang. Prior to that, I only knew martial arts from Bruce Lee in the pictures, and that was about it. Having said that, a month, not even a month after my assault, I was standing the first time in the dojo, and I learned probably something equivalent to you, but we didn't call it ninjutsu. It was called jujutsu at that time, and it was the German version, which was an artificial system that was created out of judo, karate, and aikido. The best things taken out by law enforcement and soldiers. They combined it into a system that was actually highly effective and very good. And as with many of these systems, they could be adapted. You could adapt them to your own skills, abilities, but also to the scenario. Doesn't matter if it was a 15-year-old drunk who needs to be gently restrained by a policeman, or if it was on the battlefield, a soldier who's fighting for his life. You could use the same system. Same with ninjutsu. And it was beautiful for me that we actually called violence for what it was. Here's someone attacking you. Prior to me being attacked, I would have thought, nah, attacking, what is that? And you have sort of funny visions. But once you are actually the first time and the recipient of physical violence, it will never leave you the same again. How did your PTSD behave once you started going to the dojo? Did your emotions get worse? Did the anxiety get worse? But at the same time, you told me already you were giggling on the way home. So how did your emotions deal with suddenly confronting violence as a so-called nonviolent woman?
I wonder if maybe I've always kind of had a violent streak in me. I wonder about that now. And especially, my oldest sister, I am number 3 out of 5 girls. And my mom had 3 of us, the 3 older girls, in 4 years. So we're very close in age. But of course, I was physically so much smaller, not necessarily, for my age, not because I was younger than the 2 of them, but my oldest sister in particular, she just used to drive me crazy. And I had this, it was terrible. And I knew that I'd get my butt kicked, but I couldn't help it. she would annoy me so much. I remember running across the room and just jumping on her. It'd be like having the same effect as a cat on a bear. And then, of course, she would start pummeling me. And so that was my, early childhood, relationship with my sister. And it was nothing, weird. It was just siblings fighting. So I think I always had a little bit of that natural, self-protection. I don't know. But in the dojo, it's really interesting because we always started, the skills are very deadly, which is why we start so slowly and we start with very simple movement patterns. And I really have to, give a hat tip to my sensei and his sensei who, started this small federation of Nimpo, that the emphasis was always on safety. The emphasis is always on quality of movement. Beautiful. And what you were trying to accomplish in responding to an attack and how to counterattack. But it was always just not about let's fight. It's about let's explore this movement pattern. Let's see what your body can do. And let's see how you respond mentally, emotionally, physically to a variety of different partners. And of course, that was absolutely terrifying. As I said, probably for even the first 2 years. So why did I keep going back? I don't know. There was something about the art that just was so seductive for me. And even though I was still suffering with pretty much my symptoms had not changed. I still had the same level of symptoms and hypervigilance and insomnia, stress, anxiety that I had before I started training. But then all of a sudden I realized it wasn't as sharp. It wasn't as brutal as it had been before. And so it was such a gradual shift of as I was gaining confidence and I was gaining courage and I was having fun at the same time because I had this incredible relationship with everybody at the dojo until, it was almost like I woke up one day and went, holy crap, I'm halfway to a black belt. I never wanted a black belt. I never wanted a yellow belt. I didn't even want a white belt, but it came with the uniform, so I had to take it. I didn't want any of that crap. I just wanted to take a few classes and move on with my life and get the hell out of the dojo and back to ballet class. But, and it was just amazing. It was just an incredible transition that was so subtle and so insidious, but in a good way that, I can't even describe how it happened. And then, one day it was just like, I haven't had any triggers. I haven't had any, hypervigilance. I didn't have any trauma. I mean, I was scared of my own shadow, Stephan, before I started training. I really was. It was so bad that my husband traveled a lot for work. And when he would be out of town, I couldn't even sleep in the bedroom by myself with all my dogs. At the time I was doing rescue. I had 6 dogs at the time. It was terrifying. So I would sleep in the family room on the floor with all my dogs like tucked in around me, snoring peacefully. And I'd be wide awake with all the lights blazing in every freaking room in the house. And I knew the door was right out there if I had to make a quick exit. But then something so funny happened. And I think it was about the level of green or blue belt. I can't remember. When my husband would leave town and I would wake up and I was back in the bedroom. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I would slip out of bed and I would start prowling in my own house in the dark. So it would be dark and I would be just tiptoeing and I'd be moving and picking out different corners and looking, in the deep, dark little spaces of every room and looking out the window into the dark. And it was really crazy, but it just felt like it was so fun. And I could feel that ninja energy, that ninja spirit, and being grounded and moving like a big cat, like a panther, like a snow leopard, something like that. Crazy, isn't it?
Not at all. The reason I'm laughing is because whilst I admitted to the jiu-jitsu side of things, I actually also started ninjas. And I also, I feel exactly the same, going very quiet around the house and actually feeling your weight slowly shifting, your feet gently finding the next step without making a
Mhm.
noise. And
Mhm.
so when I say love, when I love here, then it is really because I know the power that lies
Mhm.
within the movement and within you taking back control, because that is really
Mhm.
what was happening there. You were no
Yes.
longer the victim. You became
Right.
the survivor, initially
Yeah.
reluctantly, and more
Reluctantly.
empowered. And then you became the thriver because you
Mhm.
now took over control and you were
Mhm.
prowling. You were no longer the victim being stalked. You were
Mhm.
prowling. You became the predator. And at least a huge mind shift was occurring there. And your
Mhm.
body was developing in a different way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's beautiful to see you as a woman, and probably a
Mhm.
woman, not probably, a woman of a smaller stature, um, be developing that warrior spirit, because
Mhm.
size does make uh, make some difference, but there are huge advantages in small size,
Mhm.
as I already alluded to. So
Mhm.
for you to finding yourself as the tiger in the night, that
Mhm.
must have been, once that realization hit home, that
Yeah,
was occurring, that must have been such
it
a
was
power trip,
beautiful.
wasn't it?
It was beautiful. Mhm.
Wow.
You know, I still, this is so funny, and you know, this a lot of the story is, of course, in the book. But you know, the funniest thing is that even as I was, you know, starting to go up the ranks a little bit, you know, even like lower ranks, and starting to, you know, do my tests and going to another belt level, and I would always, there were like two or three other women at the dojo at the time, but they, like, as I said, they were doing evening classes. And I asked Mark one time, you know, well, why didn't they come to this seminar when your teacher came into town? Oh, well, you know, this one's taking a break and this one's taking a break. And I'm like, why is everybody taking a break? And then I found out that one of the higher ranking students, who actually made it to the level of brown belt, had a horrible accident, broke her leg when she did a throw badly with one of the big guys in the dojo. Yeah, he didn't tell me that before I stepped onto the mat, which is probably good. And the other one, something happened. I don't know what. And so she, you know, disappeared. So I would always, when I'm training, surrounded by all these guys, big sweaty men,
Mm.
and I would always keep like looking toward the door, and it's like, you know what? One of these days, a woman is going to walk through that door. A woman who is, you know, strong and powerful, and she's going to rise up in the ranks very quickly, and then she can take me under her wing. She can be my mentor, my teacher, my advisor, and she can be a role model for other women. And I just kept waiting for that woman to show up, and it was I know it was probably the level of brown belt, that it was just one of those mental head smacking moments that almost knocked me over. That it was like, oh my God, that woman has been here all along. That
Exactly.
woman was me, and I had no idea. And there I
Oh,
was at that point, because, you know, as I got my power back and do it all, and turned from this terrified, traumatized, broken, you know, little woman to this warrior, the warrior queen, and to the teacher and to the mentor.
mm,
And I became a teacher and a mentor and an advisor to the women who were now starting to come to the dojo, so the new students, but even with the men. And even the men who were higher ranking, they would come to me. They treated me kind of like, I don't know, maybe it was the school mascot, annoying little sister, wise older woman, you know, awesome sex goddess. You
uh,
know, I mean, I got it all. But they would come to me for advice on things like, you know, what to get their girlfriend or their wives for their birthday, where to take them out to dinner, how to launder their own gi for the single men. And, you know, it was really just pretty amazing.
and empowering,
Oh, yes.
and in a nice way. So,
Yes.
and for some women, power is a dirty word.
Mhm.
How were your own core beliefs prior to that? You were more saying, "Girl, I'm a girl. I like the pink and the nice things." Was there also a subservient side? A um,
Oh, no.
no?
No, I was never subservient, and that got me into trouble a lot of times, even as a little kid. Like I said,
Right.
I was, I had a very stubborn streak, still do. And I always had the feeling, you can't tell me what to do, or go ahead
Right.
and tell me what you want me to do, and I'm going to do the opposite.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I was never subservient.
Okay.
But I will say that after the trauma, I had lost I had lost myself. I mean, I lost my sense of myself. I lost any that snark. And I knew the snark was coming back when I had only been at the dojo maybe for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe two, I don't remember. But my husband, who really isn't like Mr. Observation, he's not very observative sometimes. And he said to me, I came home from the dojo and I was just bubbling and talking about what we did that day in class. And he just looked at me and says, I really think that this is really good for you. I see it in you. I can tell that you look better. You look like you sound better. And I says, yeah, I really do. We had this little conversation about it. And then finally I said, and you know what, Mike, do you know what the best part is? And he said, what? And I said, it's a great way to meet men. And he was like chopping something up for dinner. And he says, without missing a beat, he says, whatever makes you happy, honey.
Now
So
that's a man. That's
that is a man. That's a man. And I give him so much credit because he never had any qualms about sending me off to the dojo, and when the guys started calling me, and I'd look at my phone, I said, it's one of my boyfriends. He goes, which one? And, so it was kind of like a joke. And I'll never forget the first time one of the guys called me. Again, I'm not used to all of this relationship with men, having male friends. And he called me and he says, hey, you want to work out, after, or, on Sunday, this time. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. And then he goes, okay, see you then, bye. And I'm holding the phone going, I never knew you could have an entire conversation with a couple of monosyllables, a few grunts, and a see you at the end of it. And I'm holding that phone, just looking at it going, where's the drama? Because with all my girlfriends, there was, it's like, okay, make yourself a cup of tea, get comfortable. This is going to be an hour, 2 hours of all this drama. But it was like, this is so cool. I absolutely love this.
nice. Nice. And again, that's power because
Yes.
you actually did not need to escalate your adrenaline and you found actually ways. Ultimately, I mean, it's such a powerful way for you to go into the dojo to work out. And
Mm-hmm.
with working out, many of the tensions disappear for you on the mat, in your movement, taking control, but also dealing with a potential perpetrator, because that is what your mind would have played in front of you constantly. This was power. This was pure power. It was certainly
To have that much control over your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions. It's like you said, it's nothing but it's not only powerful, it's so serene.
Correct.
You just kind of like serenity now. Here it is. I'm in this moment and I'm in the middle of a circle with all these guys surrounding me who want to attack me. It's a safe place, but it's still scary. And it's like you learn how to keep that calm and focus.
Wow. How did it translate into your life? Because you were on the dojo, and within the vicinity of the dojo, you changed already from victim to survivor to thriver to mentor. So that's the full circle, really, from that you're sort of giving back. How did it change in your life?
Well, I got rid of a few relationships.
Interesting.
Oh, yes. I actually had my best and dearest friend of 30 years that I had to break up with. And think about this, Stephan. If you've been that close, I mean, and we were very close, we were like tied at the hip to the point where it was like, I need a couple more friends in my life. I mean, and as I was going through my training, I could see how controlling and manipulative and how toxic this friendship had become. And I would try and redirect the friendship, evade, deflect, and redirect, like I learned in my martial arts. And she was having none of it. And she even told me one time she did not like the way I was acting and what is wrong with you. And I thought, okay, this is it. We're done. But how do you tell somebody that you've been best and dearest friends with for 30 years that you haven't liked them for the past 15 and you've been trying to figure out a way to break up with them for the past 10?
Ooh.
And finally it was like, okay, this is it. We're done. And so once I did that, it was so amazing because once I got her out of my life, all of these beautiful people started showing up in my, more women friends that were not sucking the life out of me. I mean, it was just great. It was great. So it gave me more of a sense of, self-awareness. It gave me more of a sense of how to establish very strong boundaries. Even, going home to my family, because I live here in Denver and I'm originally from a small steel town outside of Pittsburgh. And even going home for family events, I mean, there's a lot of drama in our house, believe me, 5 girls. I was able to remove myself and not be in the way of all of the hits and the drama. And then even I was able to use my martial arts skills, even when my parents were both sick at the same time. So I was traveling back and forth, trying still to keep my private practice going. In every single thing that I do, the martial training pops up, sometimes even in the grocery store, in how I'm making my selections. Or even it's like, you know what, this person's been following me and I know it. And I'll just kind of turn and I'll look at him and look directly into his eyes. And all of a sudden they look down and they scooch away. Crazy. But it's in every facet of my life. And I couldn't imagine, well, of course I wouldn't know because I wouldn't know what I didn't know. But I couldn't imagine not having this gift. And that's, how trauma sometimes presents itself, or a traumatic experience. It's horrible when you're going through it. You would rather, do anything to get away from the pain. But then as you start integrating it, let's say, or assimilating and finding the many hidden gems and blessings that come out of either a bad experience, an illness, or whatever, it's so beautiful on the other side.
And you just mentioned it. You just said it. You said it perfectly. This is when the trauma happens, and immediately after the trauma, it does not make sense. But you essentially maneuvered yourself into a position where now you could see the positive. And that takes a huge amount of healing and a huge amount of change within yourself. Far too many women and men stay in that victim role, and try to escape their reality, not deal with it at all. And I think to a certain degree, that is what happened to me. Whilst I did the martial arts and whilst I got better in my martial arts, it was still the darkness didn't actually lift. Maybe I actually reinforced the darkness by constantly working out, imagining being attacked, working through the attack. Yes, knowing how I take down an opponent, stop a perpetrator. But at the same token, I was still living in the darkness, being attacked on and on and on. For me, there was not this breakthrough with regards to my PTSD. So that was an interesting one if I compare the two of our stories here. Having said that, it is interesting because we both changed our PTSD symptoms towards something positive. We both took different paths, but I became I had a high degree of situational awareness, no longer with regards to expecting a knife attack or something like that out of the blue, but more with regards to my job as a doctor. So I translated this situational awareness, this hypervigilance into my daily
Mm.
life. And that was actually a beautiful thing. So I masqueraded, or I looked at the symptoms of PTSD in a different way and used them to
Mhm.
my advantage.
Mhm.
When do you still suffer from PTSD symptoms?
No.
No, it's completely gone.
Nope.
Your sleep has become normal again.
Mhm.
Wow.
It's hard for me to even believe that it's been so long. And actually, the anniversary, if you want to call it that, is coming up. Tomorrow, it'll be 22 years that it happened.
Uh,
And, I used to get really squirrely. Let's just put it to you that way. This time of year, when the days start to get cooler, or the days start to get shorter and the nights
yeah.
get cooler, and you can hear the sounds of fall starting to come on, and even the smells and the trees and everything changing. And I would go like bat crap crazy right about then. And that happened for a long, quite a few years. And it doesn't even faze me now. It's like, oh, this is fantastic. It's getting cooler. It's September. My birthday's in September. It's just all those wonderful things to look forward to. The trees are changing, and it's going to be Halloween and pumpkins, and just, to me, the fall is almost like a rebirth, and it always had been. And that had been taken away from me. A lot of things have been taken away from me, but it's like, not only did I take what was taken from me, not only did I reclaim it and take it back, took a whole lot more.
Ah, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to hear that, because that is
Thank you.
exactly the journey of healing. That's exactly the journey of empowerment, of transformation,
Yeah.
of building an integrity that you never thought you possibly could
Mhm.
have.
Mhm.
So it is beautiful to hear this, to see this new version 2.0 arriving on this earth,
Mhm.
the phoenix literally g- growing out of the ashes. And
Mhm.
that's amazing. That's beautiful to see.
Thank you. And
And
I try not to dwell on it very much, but there's a part of me every now and again that says, "Oh my God, what if Mark had given up on me? What if
yeah,
he finally said, she'll never get on the mat?" And I even asked him once, I think it was probably recently, I said, well, you never thought I was ever going to train, let alone end up being, your highest ranking female. Right now, I'm the highest ranking student in the dojo. And he says, I always thought that you would do it. He said, I had no idea you'd go this far. He says, but I always had a feeling that you would do it. But what if he had given up on me? What if he stopped pushing me? And where would I be right now?
it's beautiful. It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Oh, how do you keep being motivated? I think, having been in dojos, you see people coming and going. They are there for a few weeks, maybe a few months, and then they're gone because either life interferes or God knows, many, many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
How did you keep going?
Boy,
And
that is a
what do you
fantastic
do?
question.
What do you do on a day when you don't want to train?
I go anyway. I mean, I just show up, if it's dojo day,
Yeah.
and if I have something scheduled, if I have an interview, if I've got, book event, if I've got something else that I've got to do, well, then, okay, that takes, I will skip class. But if there's nothing else on my schedule and it's like, oh, I just don't feel like going, it's like, just, just do it.
Mm.
And once I get to the dojo, and start moving, yeah, I feel, it's like, oh, I'm so glad I came. But yeah, as far as how do I keep motivated, well, I did have a 3-year hiatus. I did stop training for 3 years, and it was a very difficult decision for me. It was really, really hard. And again, the story is in the book. I won't bore you with the details. But, even when you have a good relationship with your sensei, with your dojo, stuff happens. And, the path to awareness is not always, smooth. Let's just put it to you that way. So there were a lot of times when I was actually re-triggered, and I felt like once or twice it was actually intentional. And that was really hard to get over. And then finally, it was in 2016. And I was like, you know what? I've had it. I'm over this. I'm done. And I told Mark, I said, I'm just going to take a year-long hiatus.
Mm.
No, I said I was going to take a hiatus. And he says, well, how long of a hiatus? And I said, I don't know. As long as I need or want. And he says, well, don't make it too long, because after 3 months, students usually don't come back. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to you right now, because I was pretty upset with him. And I says, well, we'll just see what happens. So it was 3 years. And then, it's like the siren call, the siren song. I started training again in 2019 in the fall. And then, of course, COVID hit, and it was like off and on, off and on, off and on. And at this point, restrictions are pretty much lifted everywhere. So I've been training regularly, and I am working toward my 3rd degree, or my 3rd level black belt.
Wow. Okay. It's interesting that you returned to the same dojo.
There was no place else to go. I looked at other arts. I looked at, there is a ninjutsu school that looked pretty good, but it's way up in Boulder, North Boulder. It would have taken me an hour to get there and an hour home. And the quality of our training, and again, my sensei is really good. Sometimes I want to smack him upside the head, but I'm sure he feels the same way about me. Our training is so good that nobody else, and I had taken seminars and done, like maybe some self-defense classes for women at other places just to see and to test it out. Nobody has the level of training. And I don't mean that we're beating each other up. The quality is so good that there was no other option. It was either you stop or, you keep going. And I needed that break. So the 3 years gave me even a different perspective and more perspective on what I'm doing.
And that is the journey of healing. It's not a straightforward shoot an arrow and that's your path. No, it is actually meandering, and it goes all over the show. And there are detours, and it is an ongoing journey, and that journey might include new challenges, might include new trauma. That might be an injury. I certainly ended up on the receiving end of a defense against a roundhouse kick, which left my toes bruised, and I couldn't train for quite some time. And it was ouch. So these kind of things suddenly, oh my God. And that was when I was young. That was, in my 20s. But injuries do occur, and they also occur now. I'm in my 50s, so I'm quite conscious of that, and a bit afraid of that. And that's times are changing in your life. Does that mean that I therefore no longer should even consider training? No, on the contrary, on the flip side. But I might just have to adapt the way I look at things. Also, it is my relationship to violence has changed. It is, and it's a constantly changing thing, because for a while you feel very safe and feel very good, and then you suddenly start looking around and you actually see more and more violence occurring. Certainly, and unfortunately, in our society, there is not a day when there are not ram raids on shops or gunshots being fired now in New Zealand with gang warfare, and that's something that people here are not used to. So for me, it's beautiful that I can reevaluate my stance towards violence and have the insights to accept that there are things that I cannot change, that I cannot.
Unfortunately, we're pretty used to it here in the States. But it does change the way I do certain things. I'm more of a homebody than I ever used to be. I don't go out to concerts or, like ballparks, or because I don't enjoy it, and I don't like crowds. And I don't know if that's just because, I'm in my 60s now and I've had enough of crowds in my life, or if it's just, I like being where it's quiet. I like being home. But it's like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the drive, the parking. And then when you think of all of these situations that are happening in these big crowds and how vulnerable and how exposed you really are, to me, it's not worth it. And even if, if I walk into a grocery store and I see something I don't like, I'll just turn around and leave. It's like I'm feeling a vibe that is not comfortable. So you do develop that sixth sense. Your intuition gets a lot more clear and a lot more developed, which is so important.
Indeed. And this is not, oh my God, I'm afraid. Oh my, I'm afraid. There's constantly this, something could happen. That's not what we're talking about. It is really an awareness that is not immediately obvious, but that becomes a something that is part of you, something that is an integral part of you, and it's beautiful. I love it and I hate it, because it means also if I can get still triggered very easily with regards to that vigilance. So sometimes I get false positives coming through. The worst thing you can do is a little noise in the night.
Yeah.
Little noise.
Well, yeah.
Where's that noise coming from? What's that noise?
Yeah, where is that coming from?
As an anesthetist, I respond to alarms. It goes ping, ping, ping in theater all the time. But all these things mean something. So therefore, if there's a ping, ping, hello, I'm awake. Just as much as a mum, she hears the baby turning over and she is awake. The same stuff is happening in our lives, but I wouldn't actually have it any other way. And I love it because it puts me into control. I'm in control of the situation as much as I can be. You're doing such beautiful work. You're writing now. You're going out there and sharing your newfound awareness with other women. You said yourself that now women are coming to your dojo, and in order to become more self-confident and more aware of their own powers. What are you working on as far as your own self-development is concerned?
Oh my goodness. Well, like I said, I'm working toward my third level, black belt. I am, of course, working on my podcast. I have fantastic guests on my show, Stephan, Neff. So great people that I'm connecting with. It's just so much fun. I am working with some clients online. I had closed my physical office in 2017. I'm teaching workshops and classes around town here in Denver. And I'm actually, I'm doing something that's really kind of crazy. And I'm not even sure if I should admit it or not. But
yes, you do.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm very sure.
Okay. So when I turned 58, I decided it was time to start engaging in more age-appropriate activities.
Oh, what is that? An age-appropriate activity?
I started pole dancing.
Absolutely. Now that's age appropriate. I like that.
There you go. Okay. So basically right now I am training for a competition. So I'm going to be doing a competition in October. And I did my first competition 3 years ago. It was 2019. And, people just keep dragging me into things that I don't want to do. I have a wonderful pole coach. I love her. She's wonderful. She has a pole studio actually in her basement. She doesn't live far from me. And so she coaches people. And I had hired her just to get over some of the scary stuff. Because you think about it, Stephan, there's a pole, a metal pole, a hard floor, your head. What could possibly go wrong, right? So you better know what you're doing. So, and me being very meticulous and a very strong sense of self-preservation, I wanted to make sure I never got injured. So she just loved me right from the very beginning. And she kept saying, you need to perform, you need to perform, you need to perform. And I'm like, that is never going to happen. So it was one day I walked into her studio. And she looked at me and she's a beautiful young woman. And she had this big smile on her face and she was actually doing this. And she says, there's something I want you to do. And I just mirrored her and I said, no, I'm not going to perform. And she said, no, I don't want you to perform. I want you to compete. And I bust out laughing. And I said, that is never going to happen. And 6 months later, I found my sorry butt on stage, with the poles and everything. Like, how in the world did I get here? And it was so terrifying. But talk about putting yourself out of your comfort zone. After you do that, what's the worst that's going to happen to you?
Oh,
right?
That's priceless. That's
And
priceless.
I did win.
Woo!
But yeah, I did win. There were only 3 of us in our category because apparently there aren't that many women over 50 who want to compete doing pole, but I won.
Okay, let's be very, very clear. Some of the viewers here might not even know what the hell we are talking about. Pole dancing is indeed a form of a very acrobatic and very focused dancing that, of course, emphasizes the beauty of a woman and maybe a certain degree of sexuality there. Absolutely. But ultimately, it is a sport that is incredibly demanding, that even
Yes.
men do. Okay,
Yes.
so let's be
We got a
quite
lot of
clear
men.
about exactly. Let's be quite clear about that. If you look at that, there is actually quite there's a lovely pole dancer out there, and he must be in his 50s, early 60s, big bushy beard, and it's lovely. And you see him there doing pretzels, all kind of thing on the pole.
I love it.
And you just have to say, wow, man, here you go.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing. And so sometimes I'll call it, a fit pole or pole sport, because it's fitness and it's sport and it's dance all wrapped up in one. Of course, everybody thinks of naughtiness, but and we get a little bit naughty, but it's just the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've done some really hard things in my life. But, once you put yourself that far out of your comfort zone, it was about a week and a half after that competition that I was doing a presentation to a professional group, speech and blah, blah, blah. And, you always get really nervous. And I mean, I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake. This is nothing compared to what I did, on stage. So it puts a lot of things into perspective as well. So that's what I'm up to.
And that is beautiful. So you're basically exposing yourself to new things that continuously challenge you. And that is how you grow. That is where you're constantly outside of your comfort zone. And that's where the magic happens. You're no longer just sitting on the couch and just letting things happen. The moment you're out there, you're taking control and you're making mistakes. And there might be interesting experiences. And there might be muscles that you start that you feel are hurting where you didn't know you had muscles. Okay, and that's fine.
Yes.
So it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. You're living. You're out there. You're going out there and taking the bull by its horns. It's gorgeous. And I think that
better taking the bull by the horns than the bull by the other things, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, true. True. Dude, so many answers I could come up with.
I know. I'm sorry I segued into that.
We had to go there.
I know.
No,
and that was back. That was actually more of a sly little reference to a story that you told me when you were on my show.
Okay. I think the reality is for us, we have transformed from victims into people that are quirky, nerdy, that are ourselves unashamedly. There is an authenticity now in us that certainly was completely absent when I was in the midst of my darkness. To compare those things to compare those two situations is night and day. And I'm now in the day, and I still have got the feeling that actually it's still only morning. The sun has not even started to get strong yet. And I want to explore more. I want to be out there. I will expose myself more to new things. I've started about a year ago. I started projects every 3 months. I want to learn a new skill, a new whatever it is. So I have done in the past. I have not done much stick fighting. Always interested me. So these 3 months it's eskrima and using stick fighting.
Eskrima is so fun.
Oh, it's beautiful. initially you do two free things with your stick, and then your forearms hurt you. Meanwhile, things are much easier, and it's beautiful. I can see myself growing, and I can see myself yearning for it. To actually yearn for something, for your heart to say, oh yeah, let's please come on, let's do something. Now that is nice compared with I'm tired, I'm stagnant,
Yeah.
I'm oh, I love it. I love it. So oh wow. So here you are, you've got your show, you have written 2 books. Tell us, where can we find out more about you? When people really gel with you and want to sort of link up with you, where can they find you?
Certainly. Start at my website. It is just CherylIlov.com. CherylIlov. There is no E on the end of I love. Everybody does it just out of habit. So you can go to my website. You can actually have access to 3 audio recordings. I call it meditation through movement, but it's based on a certain form of movement re-education that I studied. Just 20-minute lessons. You can download those if you like.
Yeah.
You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm not all that great using it yet. And I do have a YouTube channel. You can find me anywhere. If you can't find me, you're not looking.
And yeah, I made it easy for you. Look down there into the description of the YouTube video of the podcast, because you find all the links down there. Cheryl, you're an amazing woman, and it's beautiful to see, to feel your passion, to feel your energy coming through the camera there. I was smitten and taken when I was a guest on your show. You're an amazing host. So guys, check her show out. It's highly recommendable, because there's so much you translate by having your guests on your show. You bring out so many beautiful things that help others change their life. You literally make this world a better place, one interview at a time. And for that, I kudos to you. Well done for doing that with your platform. Well done for empowering women with your books. We haven't spoken of them in detail, but you guys have seen it throughout the show behind her, the Reluctant Ninja. And the other one is, I never actually saw the front cover completely. What is she doing with her feet?
That's me. And that is Forever Fit and Flexible, Feeling Fabulous at 50 and Beyond.
Right. That's right.
And I'm actually doing that one. No, this way. There you go. I'm actually doing a Pilates pose called the teaser. And I'm doing it on a picnic table up in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in a little city or a small town called Golden, Colorado. And that was actually, I had no idea. I wasn't even writing a book at the time we did the photo shoot. And the photo shoot ended up being the cover of my first book. And then in that same photo shoot, we had done some pictures with me holding the sword and playing with a sword. And let me tell you something. That made me pretty nervous, unsheathing a 3-foot-long sword in public. Think about that, right? And, my photographer is so sweet. She's, 30 years old, and darn, she's good. And she had her mom was with her helping. And I kept telling the mom, I says, please let me know if you hear any sirens or whatever. I want to put this thing away. But nobody bothered us. So turned out okay.
Oh, please. As a photographer, I've done many shoots like that. We talked before. And having said that, I typically put a sign up, photo shoot or something like that.
Oh, that's smart.
But then again, it's so beautiful to actually express yourself. And again, this would have been something that not many women like, to actually display themselves in maybe some vulnerable poses. And it is beautiful. So well done. Again, an example where you went out there and just did it and actually organized something that turned out probably to be quite fun, probably to be quite challenging. So again, that has been sort of the story of your life, to actually put yourself out there, learn, grow, adapt, change. And that's really how we become the better versions of ourselves. So,
exactly.
wow. Guys, we hopefully were able to put so many seeds out there into your own mind, how movement can help you, how maybe you might think about the martial arts and might think about your relationship to violence, your willingness to learn skills that make you stronger in due course and maybe protect you. And with that, I don't just mean the physical skills, far more importantly, the mental skills of you turning from a victim to a survivor, to a thriver. And that is the art of healing. That is really what we're talking about here. And that is really our strength. So come along onto the journey, guys. What have you got to lose? It's all about small changes every day, making the right choices. And every second you've got another opportunity to make a choice. So it's actually beautiful. Your opportunities are just there waiting for you to take. So go out there, live with passion, and look after yourself. Cheryl, to you, thank you so much for coming onto my show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Stephan. I love talking to you, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Look after yourself out there. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.